Hi everyone, today let's talk about Fed Bullard's comments, then we'll go over the economic factors, then we'll go over Max Payne for the Friday expiration, and we'll get into the charts. Then we'll go over my results for the day and my thoughts going into tomorrow's session. Don't forget to check out the Patreon and the Twitter linked in the description. If you like trading stocks and options and making money, definitely like and subscribe. I make videos like this every single day that the markets are open as well as Sundays, so make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Welcome to the Portfolio Bulletin. Let's get started. So Fed Bullard came out this morning and said he wants 2 more interest rate hikes. We talked about how he's pretty much the most hawkish Fed member in the Sunday video, and no surprises here, he came out even more hawkish than I would have guessed, recommending 2 more rate hikes, up to 5.5 to 5.75. In case you're curious, he is the St. Louis Fed president, and he thinks rates are going to have to go higher to put pressure on inflation. And he also said you want to get downward pressure when you can get it, and he thinks that is now putting the most pressure on inflation as fast as possible is the way to defeat inflation and make sure that it has gone down. And he thinks going all the way up to 5.5 to 5.75. And he finished up by saying inflation is too dang high. Like I said, he is the most hawkish, and you can see the Fed futures didn't move very much. They did go down slightly and a little bit more towards a hike in June, but just a little bit. He's the most hawkish, and he doesn't have enough votes to get that done all by himself. So we'll see how that plays out. Right now, we're still looking at a pause in June and the first cut coming in November. Moving over to the economic calendar for tomorrow, you can see building permits at 8 o'clock Eastern, global composite PMI and services PMI here at 9:45. That is while the markets are open. Expectations are for those to step down a little bit, but still above that 50 mark. And then at 10 o'clock here, we have new home sales. And I'll actually be watching this 2-year note auction to see what percentage we get. Interest rates have been going up on the 2-year note, which is interesting. And I want to see what the actual results are here at 1300 tomorrow. Looking at earnings for tomorrow, today all we had really was Zoom, and they beat on the top and bottom line. But for tomorrow, we have Intuit and Lowe's. Palo Alto, fairly interesting, and then AutoZone, Dick's, BJ Wholesale, not much, but Intuit and Lowe's are fairly interesting, and AutoZone is fairly interesting as well. Moving over to Max Payne here for the Friday expiration, you can see there's way less options in the market, just over 1 million compared to the 3.8 million we had last week. That's to be expected. But look how high this put-call ratio is at almost 2.7. Look at all these puts in the markets, just a few calls here. Pretty crazy. Max Payne at 415. We're still well above that. I think 418, 419 is going to make sense based on what we're seeing. 415 would be your floor. 420, 421 would be the upside limit. But with how few calls there are in the market, it wouldn't surprise me if we pushed up to like 423 here, hitting this mark, where just about every single put in the market is going to end up worthless. The put-call ratio just seems too high for markets to go lower, even with only 782,000 puts in the market here on SPY. Moving over to the charts, looking at the SPY on the 15 and the daily, you can see we went basically nowhere, slightly higher versus the close yesterday. Couple of peaks here, which was interesting, but the bottoms are coming in at that most traded zone, 418.62, and we're still holding above my level, 418.12, just at the 200 SMA here on the 15-minute chart. My upper level is 421.85, so plenty of room to the upside here. And as long as this support continues to hold at 418, I think we're going to remain bullish. Looking at the daily chart here, not much to say. We got a doji on the day, right at the lows pretty much from yesterday. But like I said, still holding trend support, still holding horizontal support. And until those levels break, I expect to go higher. You can see we're at 419 here after hours, so up a little bit as well, which is nice to see. Overall, mostly neutral, but slightly bullish. Moving over to the NASDAQ here on the 15 and the daily, you can see similar thesis, went up a little bit, chopped around my level here at 337.95, and that actually messed with me a little bit. So we got above here, I started adjusting for a potential continuation, then we got below, and I was holding that level. A little bit choppy, a little bit harder to trade when we hold right at that level. I much prefer either a break continuation or a move into this zone and then a breakdown, a little bit easier to trade. But overall, not too bad. Inside the expected move. Looking at the daily chart here, you can see we are slightly below that level, but we tested it multiple times, and I would expect a breakout from that level. If it does break out, I'm looking up to right around 342, which does give us quite a bit of upside potential here. So I'll keep an eye on this one. We're still quite overbought here on the daily chart. Momentum is still very bullish, but RSI on the 15-minute chart says that we should break out and continue higher in tomorrow's session. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow, you can see some pretty clear outperformance here from the Russell. Looks very nice coming off of this solid base, rallying out of that zone. Definitely looks very nice. We're up above this level after hours here, 178.33, looking up to 179.17. If that breaks tomorrow, I'll be watching for 180.85 here. Russell definitely demonstrating some outperformance in the short term. Looks very strong on momentum as well as RSI. I would like to see this RSI get above that previous high, just to confirm that we don't have divergence there. Otherwise, looking at the Dow, you can see we're rejecting off of that trend line, looks fairly weak. I'm waiting to see if this is a higher low setup. So we have this low, potentially setting up a higher low at the 200 SMA. If it breaks below that 332.44 level, then we have to be looking for about another % of downside. If this 200 SMA holds, we get above trend resistance, then I'll be watching for 335.91. Moving over to Apple and Tesla here on the daily charts, you can see Apple gap down and then dojied right at the 9 EMA. Momentum basically zero, RSI moving lower here. We still have trend support and we still have the 9 EMA sitting at 173.46. If this zone breaks here, that could be fairly interesting, coming down to 170.90 as the next support, down around the 21 EMA as well as VWAP at 170.55. It does seem like momentum is starting to fade here on Apple, which is interesting. Tesla, on the other hand, absolutely exploding, rallied super aggressively on the day. We were above this previous level at 177.70 and then pushed straight to my next level at 188.50. Spot on with that level. You'd love to see it. We also broke this downtrend line, which is interesting, but you do have to factor in now we are at key resistance. RSI is sloping up very strongly. Momentum also very bullish. And this will be one to watch here tomorrow. If this breaks through this level, you could see another very strong push up to a 197.75. You also have the 200 SMA sitting up here at 202.27. And that would be extremely bullish because that would break this lower high setup. And then you would have even tops at this previous high. And then we would have to see what happens, right? If we reject from there and we have a double top, maybe we set up a higher low, and then we get a continuation on this trend. That would be very interesting. But watching this one very closely here on Tesla tomorrow. Moving over to Roku and Alphabet here. Roku, one of the top performers on the day in the NASDAQ. Look at this move, going from all the way down at 52.45 up to 56.74. Very close to these previous highs here at 57.30, looking up to the 144 EMA at 58.48. That would also take out this high. You have a solid base level here at 52.45. We're rising after hours. This looks super bullish here on Roku. Keep in mind that this has been very choppy recently. You had a nice rally into a base, kind of broke down a little bit, took out these previous lows, but now we have a nice impulsive move off of a triple bottom type setup, and I'll be watching this one here closely tomorrow. This definitely looks quite strong in my opinion. Moving over to Google, this has been very strong, definitely a top performer here, and that continued again today, very bullish coming off of VWAP as well as the 9 EMA here on the 4-hour chart. RSI has been super overbought for a while now, and that could absolutely continue. Momentum flipping towards bullish here, and if this takes out this previous high on the close tomorrow, then you have to expect more highs here to come on Google. Moving over to Microsoft and NVDA. Microsoft rallying here again today, making new highs. This is the weekly chart. I just want to highlight how this continues to rally. 330.03 is my next resistance, which is about 3 more percentage points of upside. Super bullish here, momentum super bullish. Finally hitting overbought conditions here on the weekly chart. We'll see if this continues to rally here, and it definitely seems like it will. Moving over to NVIDIA, we did end up getting a little bit of a pullback here, which is interesting. We're holding above trend support at 309.17, VWAP sitting at 306.16. So definitely a little bit of pullback potential down to VWAP, and then we see a rally. It did get below my 313.68 level. Below that is 304.55. I would like to see this get above this level and hold, and then we can get that continuation up to 324.16. That would be very interesting. And this trend line continues to be fairly interesting in terms of upper resistance. Moving over to staples and discretionary here, you can see staples ended up moving much lower very quickly. Took out that 75.40 level, and as soon as that happened, we pushed all the way down to the 200 on the 4-hour chart. Next level is 74 for me. We do have a little bit of support in this zone here going back to mid-April, but I don't think that that's going to hold. I would expect to come back down into this previous zone at $74 if we continue to hold below the 200 SMA here. Moving over to discretionary, we got inside days versus that Thursday candle. Watching this very closely, this is a bearish setup on the candle patterns. In my opinion, we're going to see a pullback to the 9 EMA, watching that 149.63 area. That is right around trend support as well. Little bit of volume happening here, not a lot, but overall still a bullish trend with the potential for a pullback. And then that push up to that 153.90 level is what I'm watching for. Moving over to energy and oil and gas. Energy being one of the worst performers here today, down a little bit. Still very flat after the gap down. Momentum is still ticking higher here. You do have a higher low setup, potentially looking for some upside. Need to get above that 80.63 level though, as well as VWAP to start seeing some potential more buyers coming in to push this higher. RSI still showing strength. Moving over to oil and gas, however, this is the top performer. You can see this moving much higher here, breaking above my 124.13 level, hitting that 55 EMA at 125.51. I'll be watching for that 128 area tomorrow. Momentum very bullish, RSI looking quite strong, getting above that 50 line. Overall, oil and gas looks very nice going into tomorrow's session. Moving over to transports just for a moment, I want to highlight that it looks a little bit similar to discretionaries. 2 candles in a row, inside candles. Still finding support, but does look very choppy in this area. Momentum slightly bearish in the short term, but slightly bullish here on the daily chart, so still indecision at trend resistance. Moving over to the 2-year and the 10-year yield, these continue to trend higher. They've been fairly interesting here recently. Momentum on both of these is very bullish. RSI also very bullish, taking out these previous highs, looking up to 450 here now on the 2-year yield. Very interesting. That's why I said I wanted to watch the results for the 2-year auction tomorrow. I think those will come out higher than expectations, which should be fairly interesting. Overall, still looks bullish in the short term. Multiple wicks at this level, hitting my support line, and then rallying off that zone. Similarly here on the 10-year, getting close to that 3 3/4 area. If you get above that, we might be looking to these previous highs. That would be interesting, but very bullish here on yields. Moving over to breadth here on the daily 50 and 200. You can see we're basically unchanged on the 50, still below resistance, still holding in the zone. Momentum ticking towards bullish, which is interesting. Momentum on the 200 average also flipped to bullish here today, also very interesting. Still basically unchanged and still below some of these EMAs here, chopping in this zone. RSI still below the 50 line, but above the SMA. So a lot of indicators here going both directions and still neutral here on breadth. Moving over to the daily chart here, you can see we did rally slightly off of my level here. 102.99 is what I had on the charts. Touched that level here Sunday night and then rallied basically throughout the day. Still looking up to these previous highs, 103.64 at the next level. And you can see what that looks like on the 12-hour chart. Rallied into the zone, wicked the high, came down, found support, moving higher into this area. Overall, still slightly bullish here on the dollar. Even though momentum is moving down slightly on both of these charts, the trend still is intact, and I still expect that to continue. Moving over to JNK and TLT. Interesting to see some bullishness here on JNK. Got above my 91 level, moved back up to the 200 SMA at 91.56. We have trend resistance just behind that at 91.67. If this breaks through, then I'll be looking up to 92.50, but it's nice to see a little bit of bullishness here out of JNK, considering that we are moving higher, even if it is slowly. TLT, on the other hand, is falling through the floor. More bearishness here, retesting these previous lows going back to February. If we get down to 99.40 and break that level, then there's a lot of downside potential. Even that move would be fairly substantial for TLT here, but definitely bearish momentum, bearish RSI, and as yields go higher, TLT should continue to go lower. Moving over to bond volatility and SPX volatility, you can see bonds continuing to go higher here. Makes sense. TLT is going lower. Bond volatility going a little higher. I'll be watching for a breakout here tomorrow. VIX also going higher. We have a higher low now. We're above the 9 EMA. Looking at this trend line. Through wick here to that 1820 level. If we get above that, 1850, and then 20 is above that. But right now, this looks slightly bullish going into tomorrow, which is a little bit concerning if you're looking for a bullish move. Moving over to my accounts, I did fairly well. A couple $100 here. My IWM position ended up worthless. I closed that out, and all I have left is the put that I couldn't get rid of, so that's minus $4. But definitely profitable on the day. You like to see it. Looking at my individual account, I had tons of options on throughout the day. It was a sideways day, so that's generally a better day for me. The interesting thing is here, I ended up putting on a 338 put, which I do plan to get assigned on. So I'll get 100 shares. I already sold the 338 for today, which I'll get that money here. I have $22 and I have about $3 more to get on that position. So between these two positions, my actual break even is down at 337.50 or so. And we're already above that level, so a nice little profitable position. And then I already sold the 338 call for tomorrow. It says minus $32, but obviously that's not real. If I have those 100 shares and then an 84-cent profit here, so I'm looking to get out of those shares at 338.84, which would be a nice little profit on that position. In terms of options for tomorrow, I have 334 puts, 2 of those. Nice profits already. 335 put, just 1 of those. And then on the call side, I have that 1 covered call. And then I have a couple of calls here at 340 and 341. If we get above that 338 level that I was watching on the chart, I'll probably be looking to take these calls off. We'll see how that plays out. Does need to go a little bit higher here before I'm at risk. But based on the price action today, I think that 338 level is a good one to watch. If we get above it and start to rally, I can certainly take these calls off and flip to a little bit more bullish in tomorrow's session. If we break down from that level, then I have these calls as protection to help cover a little bit of downside risk. Let me know in the comments what you thought of Fed Bullard's comments. Are we actually going to go up 2 more times, or are we paused here at this level? Definitely like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video, and make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.